Hello guys, welcome back to Malik 034 channel. This is Malik Arjun. So in this today's session, we are going to deal with the what are the database startup sequences and what are the database shutdown sequences. If you want to start your database or if you want to shut down your database, whether it's a RAC database or standalone database, irrespective of whatever kind of database, each database has to go to certain phases, certain steps. To start your database, it has to go for shutdown to no mount and no mount to mount and mount to open mode. And if you want to shut down your database, it has to come from open to mount mode and mount mode to no mount mode and no mount to shutdown phase. So and then in each of these phases, what are the dependencies, and then what it will look for to start my database. All the dependencies, everything we are going to see in this today's session. So before I get started with this technical and live demonstration, live lab demonstration, if you are new to my channel, always go back to YouTube and search for Malik034 and then please do subscribe. If you missed out my previous videos, you can always go back to YouTube and search for Malik034 and then please do refer all the previous sessions. And if you like my videos, please don't forget to give a thumbs up and please share with your friends and colleagues and keep watching my channel. Let's start with the today's session. Okay, if you see this particular slide, starting up an Oracle database instance to nomount. If you see here, from shutdown, if you want to take your database to the nomount, that instance will start. If you do just startup, nomount, it will start your instance. And what to look to start your instance, it needs a SP file or a P file or an init file. If it is not able to find any of these files, your database will never go to the no mount. And then once it go to the no mount to the mount mode, it needs a control file. How it will find the control file? Control file will be mentioned in my SP file or P file. After reading my P file or SP file, it will find out where is my control file, and it will read the control file and it will go to the mount mode. And from the mount mode to go to the open mode, in the control file, we'll be having all the database files, all the redo log files, all the database information will be written into my control file. By reading that particular control file, my database will be able to locate my all the data files and all the redo log files, all the database information, and then my database will be opened. These are the typically three phases of database startup sequence: from shutdown to no mount and no mount to mount and mount to open mode. From shutdown to no mount, I need a P file. If I'm able to find the P file or SP file, I will be taking my database to the no mount. And after reading my P file, I'll be able to find where is my control file location, because in the P file or SP file, I'll be mentioning my control file location. By reading that control file, I will take my database to the no mount mode. If I'm not able to find control file in the hard disk or in the location, my database will never go to the mount mode. Right, so assuming I found my control file and database will go to the mount mode, and by reading that control file, because the control file is the main file in my database server, which has all the data file information, all the redo log information, all the database creation time and all the database structure. So by reading that control file, I will take my database to the open mode. These are the typically startup sequence. And if I can deal with how I can do this startup, either I can use SQL-Plus Utility in case of standalone, or in case of RAC, you can use this SQL-Plus Utility. It will applicable for both standalone and the RAC database. And if you want to use SRVCTL Utility specifically for the RAC database, you use your SRVCTL Utility to start your database. Typically, if you do connect to SQL-Plus Utility and just do startup, it is nothing but you are taking your database to the open mode without mentioning anything. From directly shutdown mode to, you will be taking it to the open mode if you do just startup. Other than that, if you want to take it to the no mount, you have to connect to SQL-Plus and you have to do startup no mount. It will go to the shutdown phase 2. You can see shutdown phase 2, it will go to the no mount. And once it go to the no mount, you can do alter database mount, and that means from the no mount to, it will go to the mount mode. And once it is in mount mode, you do alter database open, it will go to mount mode to open mode. These are the typical startup sequence. Or in simple, if you just do startup, you will be directly taking your database from shutdown to open state by skipping, by not skipping, by backend it will take this no mount and it will go to the open mode if you just do direct startup sequence. Whereas in if you are using SQL plus SRVCTL, you have to do SRVCTL start database hyphen d your database name and hyphen o you have to mention specifically to the no mount or open. If you mention no mount, again it will go for shutdown to no mount, and if you mention hyphen o mount, it will go for shutdown to mount, and if you mention open, again it will be like shutdown to open mode. And then instead of this no mount and open, you just do srvctl start database hyphen d and your database name. That means you are starting your database from shutdown to open mode. It is not necessarily open mode. Whatever the character you defined your SRVCTL utility, like start by default start sequence, start mode. If you mention to the no mount, if you do this SRVCTL start database, it will go to the no mount. Or if you mention as a mount mode as a default mode, then if you do this particular command, it will go to the mount mode. Or else if you mention the default start mode as a open mode, this command will take your database to the open mode. Again, it depends upon what default startup mode you have mentioned in your database. So just quickly go to my lab environment. Just I will check it out. My database is up and running. I'll shut it down. Shut abort I will do. It will just kill and it will bring it down. Okay, so now if you do ps-ef grep smon, no database we're running right now. So what I will do, as per this presentation, what I can do, I will do startup no mount first. Okay, so before that, what I'll do, I will take my p file out. This is the default location dbs, and if you see here, I have my sp file and I have my okay, I don't have any p file here. So what I'll do, I'll just move this p file as a backup. Okay, now I'll try to start my database. Okay, as per this, I will try to start no mount, and it will not start because it will not be able to find either p file or the sp file. See, in the default location, it is not able to find init file. It will first look for the sp file. If it is not there, it will look for init file. If it is not there, it will throw an error message. So what I'll do now, I'll exit and now I'll move it back my sp file. mv, I'll just move it back. Right, so now if I do, I have my p file here. So now I'll try to start my database. Same command, startup no mount. Now my database will go to the no mount mode. Right, instance is started. It allocated some background process and memory. My instance is started now. So now instance is started. I will take my database to the mount mode. Before that, I will create a p file. Create a p file from sp file, and now see, file is created here. I will just show you what is the content of my init p file. If you see here, now I got my init file. Earlier, if you see here, I don't had my p file. Since I created this create p file from sp file, using this sp file, I am able to create my p file. P file is a human readable format. If I do cat of my p file, you can see, right, control file. I can see control file 1 and I can see control file 2 here. Now if I do this particular command, alter database mount, by using this init file, I'll be able to locate my control file. And if I'm able to locate my control file, if these control files are physically available at my disk, then my database will go to the mount mode. So what I'll do, I'll just move this control file as a backup. Okay, I moved one control file. If I do ls-ltr of that control file, no such a file are direct, right? I will move this particular file also as a backup, right? So if I do ls-ltr of this control file to no such a file or directory, right? Now I'll connect back to my SQL-Plus, right? My database, if I do select instance underscore name comma status from $instance, we can see database name, instance name, and it is started. Now I'll try to do this alter database mount. My database will not be able to go to the mount mode because it will not be able to locate my control files. Okay, let's copy that command, alter database mount. Right, error in identifying the control file, check alert log for the more information. Right, so that is the issue. Now I will move it back my control files. Now where I copied, okay, here it is. Right, so I will just cp control file backup. I'll remove that backup. Now I got one control file, ll. See, I have this control file 1, and then I will do control file 2 as well. Cp control file backup to control file 2. Right, ll. I have my second control file. Now I'll do the same alter database mount command. Now I am able to find my control files and it will go to the mount mode. Alter database mount. Right, my database is altered. And if I run the same query, select instance name comma status, you can see database is in mounted mode. And next command, alter database open. Okay, so to open this particular database, it has to read all my data files and redo log files. And how redo log and data file information I will, my instance will get it? It will get it by reading the control file. And whatever these control files are the binary files. Instance, my database is able to read that. If I do cat and it is a a binary file, I will not be able to read that one. Instead of that, to read that, there is a strings utility from Linux side. If you do strings and this particular control file, you will be able to see what is the content in a short note, but not all the details. You can see this control file, I did a string of that control file. I'm able to read my redo logs, I'm able to read my control file, sorry, data files, and all the table spaces and all the archive logs and all the database characters and database creation time, everything it is there in the control file. So my database instance is able to read that binary control file, and it is able to bring my database from the mount mode to open mode. Again, command is startup open. Right, database is altered. Now if I do the same command, select instance name comma status from with other instance. Right, now it is in open mode. This is the typically startup sequence. Then if you are dealing with SRVCTL utility, you have to use -o mount, no mount, -o mount, and -o open. So see, the only thing is, if you're using SRVCTL utility, what happens, from shutdown to you can take it to the no mount, and from shutdown to you can take it to the mount mode, and from shutdown to you can take it to the open mode by specifying this no mount, mount, and open. Whereas from shutdown to no mount, once it goes from SRVCTL utility, you cannot take from no mount to mount mode. And if it is in mount mode, from mount mode you cannot take it to the open mode using SRVCTL. SRVCTL is only from shutdown to no mount, or shutdown to mount, or shutdown to open mode. Whereas if you are dealing with the SQL-Plus utility, from shutdown to no mount you can take it, from no mount to mount, and mount to open mode you can take it in a sequential. But whereas in SRVCTL, it has to be from the shutdown state to no mount, or shutdown state to open mount, or shutdown state to mount mode. You cannot take step by step. Here all start from the shutdown mode to the no mount, or open mode. And by default, if you do it, it will take your default mode whatever you mentioned. And if you are dealing with SQL-Plus utility, if you do just startup, it will take directly from shutdown to open mode. So if I do shut abort, okay, so now instance is down, I will do direct startup now. I will not go to the no mount or mount. I will directly do just startup. It will directly go to the open mode. So once I do that, I will run this query. It will see it will be in open mode. Right? See, database is in open mode. Right, so that's it about the SQL+ utility and SRVCTL utility, how you can deal it. And if you are using OEM, you can do your startup and shutdown of your instance or database using OEM, irrespective of whether it's a standalone or RAC database. You can do it via OEM. That's a GUI mode. Okay, let's go to the shutdown modes. Typically shutdown has a four modes, like shutdown abort, shutdown immediate, shutdown transactional, and shutdown normal. These are the four modes you can do shutdown your database using any one of these modes. What happened in case of abort? In case of abort, if you do here, allows new connection, wait until the current session to end, wait until current transaction to end, force the checkpoint and close the files. Okay, if I do shutdown abort means what it will do, it will not allow any new connection. You can see no, and it will not wait the user session to end. Like if the 10 sessions are connected, all the 10 session users has to exit. It will not wait for all the 10 session to wait for the exit. Each session it will by forcefully it will exit all the session and wait for current transaction. If out of the 10 session, if 5 transactions are running, it will kill all the 5 transaction, and it will it will kill and it will proceed. And if you do force the checkpoint and close, it will not do force checkpoint and close the files. It will directly close my database. It will not do the checkpoint. It will not close all the files. Nothing will happen if you do nothing will happen in the sense, if you do shutdown abort, none of these actions will take care. Automatically your database will go to the shutdown mode, and your database will not be in the healthy state. It will be in unhealthy state. And whereas if you do shutdown immediate, it will not allow any new connection, and it will wait for wait until user session to end. Users, like 10 sessions are there, it will not wait for the users to close their session. It will automatically close all those sessions and wait until the current transaction to end. If you do it will not wait for the current transaction to end. It will just close all the transactions. And if you do shutdown immediate, and if it will force the checkpoint and it will close the database, it will be like consistent database state. And if you do transactional, like again, no user sessions allowed, and it will not wait for all the user sessions to close, and it will not, it will wait for, but it will wait for all the current transactions. Like 5 transactions are running from 5 sessions, it will wait for all the transaction to complete, and then it will close all those sessions, and then it will force the checkpoint and close the data files. Again, it is also consistent state. And if you do normal, it will not allow any new connection, but it will wait for all the 10 user sessions to close their connections, and it will wait for all the transactions to close, transaction to complete, and then it will close the session, and it will force the checkpoint and it will close all the data files. Again, this is also consistent state. In any circumstances, you never use this shutdown abort, because that leads to the data loss or data corruption. So you never use this shutdown abort. That is one of the recommendation. And it is recommended to always go with the shutdown immediate. Don't go for the shutdown transactional or shutdown normal. If you go with a shutdown normal, sometimes it will go for days together. If you go for shutdown normal, you have to wait for days together. If the user sessions are not ending and if the transactions are not completing, you have to wait for days together. Again, if you go for transactions, and if there is any bulk load or long transactions are running, so you have to wait for hours together. So again, it is also not recommended. Only the recommended option to shutdown is shutdown immediate. Always use shutdown immediate, because shutdown immediate will not allow any new connection, and it will forcefully closes all the sessions, and it will it will not wait for all the transaction to end. It will whatever the transactions are completed, it will commit, and whatever the transactions are running, it will cancel. It will flag a signal to cancel those transactions. So this is the recommended way you can use shutdown immediate. Right, shutdown options, like if you do shutdown normal, shutdown transactional, or shutdown immediate, whatever I told here, if you use this ITN, any of these, shutdown normal, shutdown transactional, and shutdown immediate, the database will be in consistent state. Because if you see here, it will force the checkpoint and it will close the data files in all these 3 cases. So that is why your database will be in consistent state. What it will do, uncommitted changes will be rolled back for immediate. and database buffer cache is written to data file and resources are released. And on the way to up, if you do any of these shutdown like normal, transactional, abort, and in the next instance startup or database startup, there is no need of any instance recovery, because your database is a consistent state and you already did a checkpoint and you close your data file. It don't need any instance recovery. It will start my instance or it will start my database without recovery. And if you use any of these options like shutdown, abort, or instance failure, or any instance crash or database crash or server reboot or startup force, if you do, what it will do, on the way to down, modified buffers are not written to the data file. If any modified buffer or dirty buffer in your buffer cache, those are not written to my data file. And uncommitted changes are not rolled back. Uncommitted changes are not rolled back. Your database will be inconsistent state. On the way to start your database in the next startup, what it will do, online redo log file will be used and reapply changes, and undo segment used for rollback uncommitted changes, and resources are released. Right, undo segments and this online redo logs are very important. Yeah, and it will take your database to the roll forward or roll back. And if changes are like committed, by reading your redo logs it will apply the changes and it will do the roll forward. And if the changes are uncommitted, and using the undo segment, it will roll back all the transactions and it will release the resources and your database instance will start up. And this is a startup shutdown option if you use any of these. Right, I will show you the startup force. Startup force is nothing but, see, now database is in open mode, and if I do startup force, it will shut down immediately. It will shut down abort and it will start up my database. You can see startup force, it will bounce my database. You no need to shut down manually and start the database manually. If you do startup force, even though the database is open, it will shut down and it will start up. If any of these cases, the instance recovery will happens. Right, again, these are the if you are using with SQL utility, shutdown transactional or shutdown immediate or shutdown abort. Shutdown abort, if you do, again it will forcefully closes all the data files, all the database. It will be inconsistent. You can use either shutdown transactional or shutdown immediate, or you can use shutdown shutdown option, or there is a one more shutdown normal also. So anything you can use it here. Shutdown immediate is nothing but you can just use shutdown also. Both are like same. So like, see, database is database is started and database is open now. I just do shutdown startup force. Right. So now what I'll do, I will show you this particular shutdown transactional. If I do this shutdown transactional, right now I don't have any transactions are running. Shutdown transactional, right? Shutdown transactional, and again I can do shutdown immediate or shutdown, both are same, and shutdown abort, or you can use shutdown normal also. Anything you can use here. And whereas if you're dealing with SQL-Plus utility, shutdown -o, transactional, immediate, abort, normal, anything you can mention. Or by default, if you do stop database -d, your database name, and whatever the default option you mention in your SRVCTL config, that will take into effect. Right, if you see here, shutdown transactional is done, and I'll do again startup. And again database will go to open mode, and you can use either shutdown immediate or shutdown abort or shutdown normal. Any option you can do it. I'll show you this shutdown. Shutdown is nothing but shutdown immediate. Right, now I'll do shutdown, just shutdown. Right, shutdown also will do the shutdown transactional. And then SRVCTL, if you're using SRVCTL, again as I said, you can do SRVCTL stop database -d, your database name -o, what is the mode. You can do with the transactional, immediate, or normal, or abort. Or in simple words, if you do SRVCTL stop database -d and your database name, whatever the default config mode, the shutdown mode you defined in your SRVCTL config utility, that will take into effect. Again, the disclaimer, the startup and shutdown can be done using OEM, irrespective of whether it's a standalone or RAC database. You can use OEM to do all these operations. That's it for this shutdown and startup option. I hope this is pretty informative. So, in case of any doubts or concerns, you can always comment me on my YouTube channel, and I'll come up with the new topics in my next session. Thank you, guys.